A lady of 35 years is dragged by an elderly woman followed by some elders to a shrine where the priest awaits with a razor in his hand, with which he shaves her hair with till she is completely bald, and then speaks to her. "Woman, what is your name?" the priest asked in a terrifying voice. "Nena," she manages to answer. "Nena, I want to ask you for the last time if you have a hand in the death of your husband. Say so now, for we are at the shrine of Amedioha, and I warn you that he is a terrible god who reigns with rage and fury, so speak if you need to," he said. "Mouthpiece of Amedioha, I declare before you and the shrine of Amedioha that I have no hand in the death of my husband," she said with tears in her eyes. "Shut up, you liar, mouthpiece of Amedioha, this witch not only knows of my son's death but also has a hand in his death. You had better confess before I strangle you to death," she threatened. "Mama Chidi, this is the sacred shrine of Amedioha and not your women's union meeting or market square where you engage in shouting contests. You had better be warned. If you could fight your battle yourself, why come to Amedioha?" the native priest thundered. "Mama Chidi, behave yourself, for we have got to where our battle shall be fought for us, so why are you still fretting?" an elder asked, to which the priest signaled to his apprentices to carry Nena and throw her into the flowing river around them. Nena screamed as she went underwater and emerged the first time and went again the second time and emerged again, only for her to vanish for the third time before she came out successfully, with the waves tossing her back to the shore to the satisfaction of the priest and elders of her husband's family. The only person who was dissatisfied was her mother-in-law, who threatened brimstone and fire. "Witch, I know you killed my son, for I am not deceived by this charade. I know at the right time my God will expose your acts of witchcraft," she said angrily. "Woman, will you shut that pile of refuse that you call your mouth? The fly that is obstinate to leave the corpse usually gets buried with it. Amedioha has tested the woman and has been found innocent. You should be careful not to incur his wrath," the priest said angrily as he pointed a vulture feather at her. That night, Nena's mother-in-law crept quietly with a lamp to the room where she was, but found her two children fast asleep. She went to toilet and some other places where she might be, but Nena was not there. Not until she went to the backyard that she found her standing over the grave of her late husband and weeping silently, not aware of her mother-in-law's presence until she touched her, an act that both scared and startled her. "Nena, my daughter, if tears could build a stairway to heaven, I would join you in crying and even volunteer myself to bring Chidi back, but what has happened, we must forge ahead. Me as his mother have accepted my fate, so should you," she said in a voice that confused Nena, for she was finding it hard to believe this was the same person that threatened hell and high water that afternoon. "I can read the signs on your face, but I assure you one acted the way I did to protect you," she said. "You did all that this afternoon to protect me." "I don't understand," she said. "I know you wouldn't, because for the silent masquerade to become violent there is a reason, and for the violent masquerade to become silent there is also a reason. Come, child, I have a lot to reveal to you, but not here in the open," she said as she took Nena by the hand and looked in all directions as they went into her room. "My dear, your late husband before his demise told me about you from the first day you met till when you had your children. So I was convinced that you couldn't have killed your husband," she said in a low tone so as not to be heard by prying ears that might be lurking around. "But why did you let me go through all of these tribulations?" Nena asked loudly, but exercised caution when her mother-in-law signaled to her to lower her voice. "Caution, child, for the village is not like the city. You can never tell who is eavesdropping on you. If you must catch a monkey, you have to act like one. I had to feign support for them in order to know what they were really up to," she said. "And did you find out, Nena?" she asked in a low tone, to which her mother-in-law nodded. I found out that those greedy and shameless old men were not acting the way they did in sympathy of my plight, rather they are fighting for their own interests, she said. Fighting for their interests. Mama, you have lost me there, Nena said. They are after their share of Chidi's wealth, she said, to which the younger woman opened her mouth in shock and horror. Mama, but how did you come to that conclusion? She asked in disbelief as she stared at her mother-in-law. Don't you know that the cat performing ablution is preparing itself to steal? I have sat in their midst and heard their conversations, and all they are focused on is over their bodies, that only you will cut away all his wealth, she said, to which Nena reacted by shaking her head. I recall when I became a widow, to bury my husband was a tug of war because he died poor. These so-called family relations would not lift a finger to help, complaining they had no money, she said. But Mama, is it fair? Must widows be subjected to such harsh treatment? Nena asked. Nena, my child, it is a tradition that we met and will leave behind. What pains me is that what you were subjected to. I didn't face even a minute percentage of it when my husband died, she said. With that she remembered how Nena was forced to drink the water used and bathing her husband, and then locked for 3 days with her husband's corpse. All this she watched helplessly as the young woman was subjected to the inhuman treatment. Nena, my child, I encourage you to be strong because there are many more rivers for you to cross, but be rest assured I will stand behind you all the way, she said as she held her 2 hands in hers and then bid her good night as she left the room and disappeared into the thick dark African night as suddenly as she came. 3 days later she was summoned by the elders of the family for a meeting. Nena, I hope you slept well. We don't want you see as wicked people, but we are simply following the traditions of our ancestors. Now to the reason why we have called you. We discovered that the properties of your husband are too much for you as woman to manage alone, so we have a proposal, the head of the family said, to which Nena looked into her mother-in-law's eyes and remembered the secret discussion they had. Eneni was right, these greed fools are after my husband's wealth, she said silently as she looked at all their faces. So Nena, I want you to choose between either of our 2 sons who would manage the properties of our late son, he said, to which she burst into tears. May God forbid, my elders, I would prefer this thing leave the village as soon as possible because her sight alone is irritating me, she feigned in anger but winked at Nena. Agreed. Nena, you have to leave for Lagos tomorrow, but you have 1 month to think of what I just told you, the family head said, to which Nena took her leave and prepared to leave for Lagos the next day. As she sat on her own, she pondered deeply about what her mother-in-law had told her of the greedy relatives who were only after their own selfish interests. The next day she left the village with her children in a BMW X5 Jeep, one of the cars she brought to the village. When she asked the whereabouts of the Prado Jeep, she was told the head of the family had seized it under the guise that it was too big for her alone to drive. With that she left the village and headed for Lagos. Nena felt rejected as the world she lived in was crumbling in front of her with her eyes open. She remembered it like yesterday when her husband's kinsman came to her house to evict her from the house which she and her deceased husband struggled to build. As if that was not enough, they chased her out with her daughter Faith but kept Daniel, her son, behind, telling her that he would be taken care of by those who would be occupying the house. She pleaded, but all her pleas fell on deaf ears as she left behind the house she and her late husband had worked for almost all their lives. Tears ran her eyes with the harsh treatment she was being handed, but on remembering the words of her mother-in-law of the journey ahead, she braced herself. She sat all alone in the room with which she was managing with a friend. Nena, a voice called behind her loudly, to which she turned in the direction where it had come from. It was her friend with whom she was squatting, standing behind her with a nasty look on her face. I sincerely hope you are not expecting me to cook for you again today like I did yesterday. She asked harshly. Miriam. You are welcome, and how was your? Nena asked. That is not what I have asked you, she cut in rudely. Food has been ready an hour ago, she replied humbly, to which her benefactor walked away into the kitchen. Nena sensed that her presence was no longer needed in that house, as Miriam showed that she was becoming a burden to her, but did it indirectly. If she wasn't complaining about the food being salty, it would be the house being untidy, or one minor thing or the other to voice out her anger. Nena has had enough and was determined to put a stop to all these insults. The next day she went to Tejuoso market and sold her gold jewelry, which she had managed to smuggle out on the day she was being thrown out. Good morning. I want to sell this jewelry. How much are they worth? She asked as she gave the jewelry to him to examine. Madam, I fit give you 250,000 naira, he said after examining them. 250 what? This jewelry is worth 500,000 naira, she exclaimed. Madam, I no fit lie to you, gold done plenty for market now, but people wey one buy am no day, but if you fit wait till next week, buyers go plenty, he replied. I can't wait till next week, for I need the money urgently, she said. Madam, the only thing way I fit do for you be say I go give you 300,000 naira for the gold, he said, to which she paused to think before replying, okay. I agree, give me the money, she said, to which the trader counted 300,000 naira in 1,000 notes and handed it over to Nena, who counted it to make sure it was complete. When she was satisfied, she handed the jewelry over to him and left. Meanwhile, her son Daniel was being badly treated by the relations who took possession of his father's house. He felt like a captive in a house that belonged to his father. He was the scapegoat for everything that went wrong in the house. If a glass got broken or something was missing, it was his fault, and he always got punished for it. He was the dog's body of the house, doing the bulk of the work and getting no thanks for it. To make matters worse, he was withdrawn from the private school he once went to and sent to a government school with the excuse that his school fees were exorbitant. An action which didn't go down well with the school authorities of the private school, as they paid his relatives a visit. Sir, we have come in respect of Daniel's absence from school. We hope there is nothing wrong with him. One of the teachers asked. Thank you, teacher, for your concern, but I chose to withdraw Daniel from your school for reasons best known to me, the relative said. Please, sir, if it is about school fees, we are ready to place him on scholarship, for his father, while alive, made immense contributions as chairman of the Parents Teachers Association, he said. Mr. Teacher, I have the means to let him continue, but as I told you earlier, I withdrew him from your school for reasons best known to me, he said, to which they reluctantly agreed and took their leave. After that day's meeting, the relative gave the security man instructions not to allow anyone into the compound to see Daniel or see him concerning Daniel's issue. A week after the incident, Nena secretly went to visit her son but was prevented by the security man. Madam, I for let you see your son, but your husband's brother Don warned me make no let anyone in to see Daniel. The last time when I open gate for you, no sack them sack me, but for everybody way beg for me, he said apologetically. So what do you suggest that I do? She asked, to which the security man looked in all directions before answering. Madam, na only school you fit see he said. Baba Kafaya, how do I see my son when I don't know the school he attends? She asked in desperation. I know say na government primary school Ekeja now where your son they go, because I see for him uniform. Madam, the way them do your son my I no fit take How them go tell small child like him to wash gutter? Na me they help or the beating them go beat no be small thing, he reported. You don't mean it? She asked in disbelief. Madam, not true, you know fit be person I fit lie to. I no go forget the thing you and your husband do for me. When my wife born, na oga pay the bill, and on the day of the naming ceremony when I no get kobo for house, na you arrange everything, he said, to which she thanked him and left. Thursday afternoon, the rays of the sun were loosening their grip on the school compound. Nena waited patiently outside the gate, looking at her wristwatch that signaled 20 minutes to 4. Precisely the time that the motorcyclist was to come and pick Daniel. The funny thing though was that neither of the two was within sight. Where could he possibly be, for it is time already? She asked herself as she looked at her wristwatch again, waited, and then a minute later Namdi, in the midst of his schoolmates, emerged from the gate. Nena joyfully stepped forward towards her son. Daniel, on the other hand, was happy to see his mother and sister again. "Mommy, I have missed you and Faith so much," he said as he ran to his mother. "Not as much we have missed you," she replied with a smile that depicted joy in seeing her son again. "Mommy, uncle and auntie really maltreated me in the house as they gave me little or no food to eat," he said, to which his mother nodded in understanding. "That is why we are both here, and I thank God you got my message to pack whatever you can, for you won't be returning to that house for the time being," she said. "Mommy, I am very hungry. I haven't eaten anything since morning," Daniel complained as they walked away. "Don't worry, we will all get something to eat immediately we leave this place," she promised as they headed for the marketplace, where she bought some new clothes for him to replace the old ones he left at home. On leaving the market, they stopped at a nearby canteen where she bought food for him. They later went to where she was squatting with a friend. Faith was happy to see her brother as they both embraced each other, a move that deeply touched their mother as she watched them talk happily.